So today, we're going to talk about something that gets wildly underexplained. What really happens to your money, to your career, even to your brain, the second you make that final mortgage payment. And I promise you, by the end of this, you're going to see that monthly bill in a completely different light.
All right, let's just start here. You know this feeling, right? It's that universal thing. Nothing is actually wrong, but there you are, running the numbers in your head again. You're trying to figure out if this is the month you finally get ahead, or if you're just treading water. Again. You kind of already know the answer, but you do the math anyway.
But what if that constant low-level buzz of financial stress just stopped? That's the real thing we're digging into today. Because when you pay off your mortgage, you don't just get rid of a bill. You get rid of a prison sentence you didn't even realize you were serving.
Let's kick this off with the numbers, because the math on this is honestly way more brutal than most people think. This isn't just some loan. It's a silent force that ends up shaping decades of your life.
Okay, check out this number. This is wild. The average mortgage payment eats up 43% of the median American's take-home pay. Now, what's the universally agreed upon safe number? 28%. So most homeowners are walking around 15 percentage points over the limit every single month for 30 years. Think about that.
Let's make this feel a little more real. Meet the Garcias. They've got a great dual income. They're doing everything they were told they were supposed to do. But after taxes, after a modest 401k contribution, their $110,000 salary becomes about $6,800 a month.
And this pie chart just perfectly shows where it all goes. Housing alone, that's the mortgage, taxes, insurance, a little for maintenance, is $3,300. Then you add in the cars, the student loans, health insurance, groceries, utilities, and what are they left with? $130. That's before a single t-shirt, a soccer practice, or, any concept of fun. And this is the point, right here. For the Garcias, every conversation about their career, every dream about starting a business, every little thought of taking a trip gets filtered through that one quiet question. Can we still cover the mortgage? It's like a tab that's always running in the background of their brain that they can never, ever close.
But the true cost of this thing goes so far beyond the check you write every month. The real cost is measured in the opportunities you just can't take, the risks you can't afford, and the constant low-grade stress that your body carries around for decades.
Now, a lot of people think, great, my $2,800 mortgage is gone, I'll have $2,800 back. But it doesn't quite work like that. You still have to pay property taxes, you still have insurance, and you still have maintenance. Realistically, when that payment disappears, you've actually freed up about $2,000 a month in real, spendable, deployable money.
But what can $2,000 a month actually do? Well, this is where things get kind of crazy. If you just invest that in a simple index fund, it becomes over $140,000 in just 5 years. In 10 years, it's over $360,000. And in 20 years, it's over $1.1 million. And the best part? Most of that wealth came from compound interest, not from you having to work any harder.
The impact isn't just financial, though. There was this 2019 study that tracked people when their debts were totally eliminated. The percentage of folks showing clinical symptoms of anxiety dropped from 78% all the way down to 53%. That is a 25-point drop in diagnosable anxiety just from closing accounts. And here's the little detail on that study that just stopped me in my tracks. Closing the accounts, that mattered more than the actual dollar amount of the relief. Your brain doesn't really care about the balance. It cares about the open tab. And for most of us, after the credit cards and student loans are gone, the mortgage is the last, biggest, loudest tab still humming in the background.
So this brings us to the big debate, the one everyone loves to argue about. If you've got a super low mortgage rate, shouldn't you just invest any extra cash instead of paying down that loan? And this is really a battle between pure cold spreadsheet math and messy human psychology.
The spreadsheet's logic, it's clean. It makes perfect sense. A 3% mortgage is cheap debt. The stock market historically returns more, so mathematically, you should invest. But human reality is messy. The truth is, most people don't actually invest that difference. It just gets absorbed into lifestyle creep. And let me tell you, trying to ride out a 40% market crash while you still owe $2,500 a month on your house, that is a recipe for making some really bad panic-driven decisions.
So here's the part that ties it all together. Peer-reviewed research shows that just carrying debt impairs your cognitive functioning. So you have literally been trying to make this huge pay off or invest decision from a compromised state. The weight of the debt itself is affecting your ability to think clearly about the options.
Okay, so what does life actually look like when you get to the other side, when that main financial weight is just gone? The entire formula for your life actually changes.
Let's go back to the Garcias for a second. Once that mortgage is gone, Mrs. Garcia can now take that job that has a little more meaning but maybe slightly less pay. Mr. Garcia can finally start that contracting business he's been dreaming of, because one bad quarter doesn't mean they might lose their house anymore. See, their income hasn't changed at all, but their choices have changed completely.
Now look at this. Look at the long-term impact. The general rule of thumb for financial independence is you need to save about 25 times your annual expenses. Well, by getting rid of a $24,000 a year mortgage payment, you instantly reduce the total amount you need to save by $600,000. You haven't earned one extra dollar, you've just completely rewritten the definition of what it costs you to be free.
All right, let's get super practical. How do you actually get to this finish line faster? This isn't just theory. Here is a clear, actionable blueprint you can literally start using tomorrow.
And these strategies are way more powerful than they look. Just switching to bi-weekly payments, that gets you one extra payment a year, and that alone can shave 5 or 6 years and over $100,000 in interest off a typical loan. If you can add an extra $500 a month to the principal, you can shorten the timeline by about 8 years. That's a game changer.
And then, once it's paid off, that freed up $2,000 a month becomes your personal wealth-building engine. And here's the plan. You do it in this exact order. First, rebuild your emergency fund to cover 6 to 12 months of your new, lower expenses. Then, you follow this waterfall. Step 1. Get your full employer 401k match. That's just free money. Next, max out a Roth IRA. After that, max out the rest of your 401k. If you can, fund your HSA. And then every single dollar left over, you pour it into a simple, low-cost index fund. This is the blueprint. This is how you build serious wealth.
So here's what I really want you to walk away with. The mortgage wasn't just a big bill. It was a permission slip that you had to silently ask for every single time you wanted to do something different or interesting with your life. It was the invisible hand with the tightest grip.
But when that grip finally releases, you can actually make decisions based on what you want, not on what the mortgage requires. And that changes everything. So the question isn't really just about money. When the math is gone, what will you decide?